I actually just realized that Katie and I had hung out in her college dorm years ago. We just made that connection tonight. So it does go to show you that good people always do end up in the same room. I'm really so excited to be here this evening. It's a kind of a pinch me moment as far as we've come in building Bcauz Club. To look around this room and to see people that have been a part of the journey, and to also see people that have been on our wish list for the past 7 years. It's good to finally meet you guys. I'm hoping most of you guys were familiar with Bcauz Club before this evening. We are an organization here in Atlanta that serves children and teens facing life after the death of a parent or a sibling. Many of you may not know that 1 in 7 children will lose a parent or a sibling before the age of 18. These kids are not kids that walk around with a scar or any visible wound in their life, but they are in every neighborhood, they are in every school, and they are in every community. In Atlanta, we happen to have 40,000 of them that could use our Bcauz Club services. So while Bcauz Club is doing great work, we have a lot of room to grow, and we will continue to be reaching out to you guys for that help in the years to come. I am here to talk a little bit about my new initiative called Living by Giving. And I'm going to introduce Living by Giving to you guys as a movement, and it's a movement that I hope you all will join. You probably have all been a part of it already and may not know it, but I'm going to share a little bit more about what I mean by Living by Giving. The reality is that giving is all around us, and this gets me really excited. Even more exciting is that it's not really just about money anymore. I kind of get a giggle when people call me a philanthropist or coin me as so. Not that I don't want to be aligned as a philanthropist, but honestly, I think the biggest check I've ever written to a charity is $250, which by no means puts me in the category of the thousands that we consider to be philanthropists. But I am a philanthropist, and I think we're all philanthropists, because today philanthropy is about way more than just the check. It's about the time, it's about your mind, and it's about your spirit. Living by Giving is about discovering happiness, and ultimately the movement of Living by Giving is shifting the paradigm of personal success in our culture to be one that's centered around helping others. Why do I feel that this is so important? Because that's the walk that I've just walked for the past 7 years. As many of you guys know, companies as well, not just individuals, are giving a little bit less of their money. I think one report I saw said as much as 7.5% has gone down in financial contributions. But the flip side of this is that we're seeing in-kind donations go up 5%. So this is really a win-win as I see it. So to tell you a little bit more about where Living by Giving comes from, I want to share with you one of the biggest gifts. Katie actually mentioned it earlier. One of the biggest gifts that I realized that you can give yourself is to give back to others. I know that may sound a bit of a turnaround, perhaps a little bit selfish, but I think it's an important message to share in our world as we enter a new time where giving back is going to be as routine as our fitness regime. And I'm not kidding about that. I think some people, like fitness, will work out once a year, maybe around the holidays especially. Certainly the same with giving. But others will look to build it into their everyday lives. And I think more and more people are trying to do this. I share the idea, and I'm excited to share the idea of Living by Giving with you, not just as individuals yourselves, but as the leaders in your community and in your companies that ultimately will guide many colleagues down the road to connect with the cause. Not just to have impact in the community, but to have impact in their own lives. You will be able to really help them connect, to find purpose, fuel that passion, and ultimately live a happier and healthier life. And that is where impact is born. To know me is to know where all of this comes from, and to know my own little story. It was a story that a decade ago I had never spoken out loud. When I was 12 years old, my mother, Audrey Atwood, died of breast cancer. I was 12 and left with a long path, including adolescence, ahead of me, and really no idea how to navigate this path without Mom. I mean, whose mom dies? At the time, the only people I could think of was Cinderella and Snow White, and they weren't really going to be able to help me. At the age of 20, I began to explore volunteer opportunities during my latter collegiate years, and I'll admit it was definitely to boost the resume. But in my discovery, I found a camp just outside of Richmond, Virginia that was for children who had lost a parent. And I immediately connected to it, and I immediately said to myself, well, I'm healed. I'm going to go help some kids out. So I went off to camp, not really knowing what to expect. Upon arrival, the camp founder approached me and asked if I would share my story to open camp. Well, my story was something that I hadn't shared in 8 years since my mom had passed, and I hadn't even shared with my closest friends. So now suddenly I was sharing my story in front of 300 strangers, and I was opening a whole new world. Up to this point, my mom's death had been about me. It had been my story. It had been my struggle to resolve. Later that night, it would become about much more. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth when I felt a little tap on my back. I turned around to see this bright-eyed, beautiful little girl staring right at me. And she said, "You're Kate, right?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "You lost your mom, right?" "Yeah." She said, "Well, I lost my mom and my dad. They both died in a car accident. I live with my aunt and uncle now, and I have 2 younger brothers." And she told it with such comfort and with such safety. I really didn't know what to do with it at the time. What was happening? This little girl, whom I later found out had not spoken of her parents' past since they had passed, was now sharing her story with me. She was comfortable, and so was I. That was the moment that I started to dream of how my mother's death, an event so devastating and so incomprehensible in my life, could actually be a vehicle to bring me joy. And that feeling was so powerful, I would go back to that camp after having moved to Atlanta for several years. Until one night over dinner with my father, I shared my new story about how I could use something so tragic in my own life to help others, and how awesome that made me feel. My dream was to do more for these kids, to build a place for them to feel comfortable in their grief, in their life, and most importantly, with others who shared in such a loss. A place where more than the idea of Cinderella and Snow White made you feel you weren't alone. That dream became a journey for a handful of volunteers in those early years. That's a whole nother keynote. And that journey continues to evolve, to grow today, thanks to hundreds of individuals in our community that have helped to build Bcauz Club. I share all of this with you guys tonight because my goal is to help inspire you to think of how your giving programs provide an opportunity to better the lives of your colleagues, young and old, and even the retired workers who, as I'm sure many of you know, are more likely than ever to get into the act. Yes, the community benefits, but the impact becomes twofold if you provide ways for your teams to really usher giving into their lives. You can be that catalyst, perhaps a catalyst to a giving dream just as I have shared. One of my favorite questions to ask of late is, what is your giving dream? If resources of time or money or skill were not an obstacle, what would be your dream in changing the world? Now I've asked this question to high schoolers, to college kids, to peers, and to executives. And not surprising, they've all had an answer, and they've all been hungry to share their answer. What an exciting time of our world that we are living in, that we can include a giving dream into our American dream. Think about that. That's living by giving. As for my giving dream, it's seen every day in Bcauz Club. I have no doubt that if we didn't have individuals who truly connected to the cause and to the mission and to the dream, we would not be carrying the impact we are today, and more so be in a position to succeed as we are today. Many of these individuals have found a way to contribute and a way to engage through their workplace. You all know it. It's no longer a forecast, it's a reality. According to a recent study, nearly 2/3 of the respondents said they prefer to work for companies that give them opportunities to contribute their talents to nonprofits. More and more individuals are discovering their giving passion to give back through their work. So how can you continue to facilitate this vehicle of happiness through your work for your colleagues. That's my charge to all of you today. Words like connect, inspire, impact should be delivered not just to the recipients of who you are serving, but also those who you wish to engage to give back. Now, I get a lot of emails from young people who want to start nonprofits, and I'll tell you what I tell them. Don't do it. No, I really do tell them that. But what I tell them is that you don't have to start a nonprofit to make a difference. You have to make a connection. That connection to a cause where you can give time, mind, money, and spirit. Similar to me, that often starts with this story. Our reality today is that more and more of us struggle in our own lives. If all of us realized how much happiness can come into our own lives when we set out to help everyone else, I have no doubt that all of us would be doing it. You and I and everybody in this room are the leaders to get everyone started. Thank you for your time, thank you for your commitment, thank you for your inspiration, and thank you for your impact.